This car is amazing. It is a very fast car. We've seen that over the last couple of years. It has won at so many time attack events. But now that we've gone to wheel, I'm not quite performing as well. At Watkins Glen, I finished in 25th position. And as much as I'd like to blame the car, it's most likely just because of me as a driver. I'm not confident enough and I need more seat time to get there. But like any true racing driver, I'm gonna blame the car. So we're gonna bring it into the garage and make some improvements to the car to make it faster while I try to blank out of my mind the fact that it's really just me. I'm the problem, it's me.
All right, Ben, you ready to get to work?
Yeah, we got Mark. We got a lot of stuff to do to this car. First thing is to get this car safer, more reliable, so I can have more confidence on track.
Yeah, you were talking about visibility. You were having issues with that, so
yeah.
We need to address that probably with, what, better mirrors?
I got some bigger mirrors on the way. The dead pedal also fell off, so we gotta reattach that.
You're having a lot of issues, aren't you?
Fire suppression and the battery cutoff switch is a great spot for it. However, when I'm strapped in, I can't actually reach it. So we should probably move that. Before we get to any of that though, we've got to change the oil because I'm gonna forget otherwise. So engine oil, transmission fluid. We should probably also do the brake fluid because it's been a while.
All right, let's do it.
VR1 racing oil is sold at Advanced Auto Parts. Racing oil. Okay, now that we've got all of the fluids done, I can check that off my list and not worry about that. We're gonna move on to some safety items. When they were teching the car, there's a lot more safety requirements for wheel-to-wheel racing rather than time attack. And while I technically met all of the requirements that they had, they strongly suggested that I do a few more things to help the car just be a little bit safer. And one of those things are these split collars. Split collars go to the right and left side of the harnesses because in the event of an accident, these can slide left or right, which is not good. You don't want your body moving around. So these guys will clamp onto the bar to the left side and right side of the harnesses to prevent them from sliding back and forth.
So Ben got us these mirrors. He was complaining about visibility when we were at Watkins Glen.
The beauty of these things is that they sit inside the car and it's kind of a curved mirror so you can see a lot of what's around you. The mirrors I currently have right now are flat, so it's kind of like looking through a pinhole. And when I'm going side by side into a corner, I couldn't see if there was a car to my right or not. So as a result, I just kind of backed out and let them take it if there was a car there. So these mirrors should help me be able to know if there is a car there and how much I can tuck in, which is gonna help me go faster and give me more confidence.
All right, now we're gonna address the mirror situation for the rear view. This one is concave, so it should give you a wider field of view. He wants this mirror to sit as far forward as possible, but what's going on is the brackets are in the way. So we have a piece of aluminum here that we can attach to this other bracket to try and extend it out.
All right, looks good. Yep, I see you. Yep. Oh crap, oh, he's got the inside. Oh man, he got the pass. All right, yeah, I saw you the whole time.
Mirrors work.
Mirrors work.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and install his dead pedal. It was rusted out on the back side, so he just removed it. And while he was on track, he noticed that it took a longer duration for him to move his foot from one location to another. So he was really wanting his dead pedal back.
Well, I've been running all around town to try to get parts for this. I'm going to relocate my battery cutoff switch because when I installed it in the very last episode that we had with this car, I didn't realize that it's out of reach when I'm strapped into my seatbelts. So I can't actually reach the switch, which in the case of an accident, I would have to undo my seatbelt in order to hit it, which not a big deal, but everything we can do to make this car safer is better. So I'm gonna move the cutoff switch up to where this normally sits because that way somebody from outside the car can also hit the switch. So we're gonna make a panel out of this. I'm gonna cut all of this plastic out, put a metal piece in here so that we can mount the cutoff switch and also my rain light to this panel here. That way I can reach it and also other people outside the car can reach it. So I have some extra vinyl from when we wrapped the car, and I'm gonna use a little bit of this to actually wrap over this. I could just paint it black, but I feel like it'd be pretty neat to have like some of the livery pattern come into the interior. I went to my not so local stereo shop, which was a little over an hour away, to get some really nice 100% oxygen-free copper wire here, and this is 4 gauge. I currently have in the car 2 gauge, but it is copper-clad aluminum, which is not as efficient at conductivity as 100% oxygen-free copper. So I can downsize the wire while still being able to transmit the same amount of amperage through here, which will actually save a little bit of weight. We are talking maybe ounces, but hey, it all adds up. But the biggest reason that I'm getting this is because I'm gonna have to run it longer than my current wire in there. So I have to replace it anyway because we're putting the switch up by the driver's side by the window. So I've got 32 feet of wire. Hopefully that's enough for the whole wiring system. I'm gonna redo the alternator wire, the ECU power wire, and the battery power wire, all of which go to my battery cutoff switch. All right, I've got the alternator power wire run, the ECU power wire run, and now I need to run the wire for the battery. And that one we're gonna put an inline fuse into. So this is obviously usually used for sound systems, but it's an inline fuse that we can put a 80 amp fuse, which is the factory amperage and also the maximum amperage of this wire in here. So if anything does go wrong, the fuse will trip and prevent a fire. One more thing that I'm gonna change is the valve cover. This valve cover has been on the car for 3 years now. It's great, but it has all these extra baffling ports that I don't need. I'm not using them. And also, it's been 3 years. I think maybe it's time to mix it up and maybe go with a red valve cover. I have always kind of wanted to try out the red valve cover look on here. And this I got for 40 bucks off of Facebook, really good deal. And it was sandblasted, so it's super clean. It basically looks brand new. But the downside of sandblasting valve covers is that all of that media blasting material can get underneath the baffles in here. And if you just put this on the car, that media blasting material can get into your oil and clog your bearings and blow your motor, which obviously you don't want to do that. So if you ever sandblast a valve cover, make sure to clean out underneath the baffles as well. So I have to take this baffle out by drilling out all the factory rivets and then clean it out and re-bolt it back together so that we don't hopefully clog our oil system. This right here is sand from when it was sandblasted. And that right there is why we want to take this baffle off, because if that sand gets all up in your oil, you know, the oil filter might catch a good amount of it, but you could still block some bearings and blow your motor. Going with the Moly valve cover gasket, and we also got the spark plug gaskets and also the like washer gaskets. So we will have all fresh new gaskets. And I'm gonna top it off with some Honda Bond on there just to make sure it all seals up. And guess where you can get this? Take a guess in the comments below. Yeah, Advance Auto, obviously. Right, well, with the valve cover in there, it is really weird to see because I'm so used to a black valve cover in here. But I think the red makes sense with the livery. It kind of ties all the red together, and it also just feels very Type R, you know what I mean? But while we still have the coil packs out, it's probably a good time to change the spark plugs. I've got some new spark plugs here for it. When we detuned this car to run in GLTC, we took 30 horsepower out of it. And the way that we did that was by cam timing, but also we made it really rich, which makes it run safer, but also it's gonna foul the spark plugs a little bit sooner. So we're gonna have to change spark plugs a lot more frequently now, but hey, at least the engine's not stressed. Okay, we have saved the best for last. This is honestly the part that I am most excited about. I have been looking for years for this product. It is a Formula One product. It's used in Formula One cars, and I'm gonna be putting it on my Honda Civic. And of course that is a replacement air filter. Okay, I know what you're thinking. That's simple, but this is much more than that. This is actually in line so that you can run a pipe on the inlet and also the outlet, so it's not just like a cone air filter. And the reason that I wanna do that is because I can then use the headlight intake that I have here to literally force the air when you get higher speeds into the intake. And the reason that's super beneficial for me is because in GLTC, it is a power to weight class, and they dyno your car to see how much power you have. Well, you know what they don't have on the dyno? 100-mile-an-hour air speeds. So once I actually get on the track, I'll be taking in more air than what the dyno is showing, meaning I will actually produce more horsepower. And they've even shown that on this chart here. They've got like a speed-based dyno graph, which is super interesting to see. I've never really seen something like that before. And they saw a pickup of about 5.6 horsepower. And if I can pick up 5.6 horsepower in this car in a very competitive power to weight class, I think that would put me at a very, very big advantage. Unfortunately, I'm not the only one using this in GLTC. There is a couple other cars that have figured out a similar technology, but I think this one might be superior. My headlight intake pipe goes back a little too far. It made sense for the cone filter, but now there's not quite enough space to have a 90-degree bend into an airbox. So I'm gonna have to remove the headlight, which means I have to remove the front bumper, so I can cut down this pipe a little bit shorter to more properly fit the intake box. So I've got a bracket now underneath and to the side of this headlight, as well as the headlight itself being in there, because the intake is going to be moving along with the engine, and I didn't want that to put undue stress on this headlight tube and end up making the headlight crack or have the tube kind of fall out. Okay, now that we have the new intake in, you can see how it works. It's literally taking air in from the headlight and only from the headlight. So if I block this off, in theory, the motor will stop running because this is where it's actually breathing out of now. And the carbon intake, you saw I put some tape around the inlet and the outlet because the inlet and the outlet of this is actually 3¼ inch, while as the silicone ducting I have is 3½. So this intake is actually a restriction over this intake because this one's a full 3½. And this one also has a velocity stack in here. And we tried a good like 20 different intake configurations on the dyno to see which one made the maximum amount of power for my car in Club TR class. And this was the result. Just a straight with a velocity stack on the end netted the most horsepower. It was about 10 horsepower difference between all the different intake variations. So this intake will restrict my horsepower by about 10, give or take. And the reason I'm doing it is because I'm already 30 horsepower down from what the maximum of this engine can do. We had to detune it a ton, which means now we can tune it back up a little bit by at least 10 horsepower to get that 10 horsepower back from the restriction that this is causing, meaning that we're gonna be running a lot less rich than we were, so the engine will be running in a little bit more of an optimal flow design. But also, now, when we're at speed, we're gonna be ramming some air directly into the intake, while as this did not necessarily have that result. We had the headlight intake flowing into where this filter was, but not physically being forced into the intake pipe. So in theory, at higher speeds, I should make more horsepower than at lower speeds. Something that a couple other GLTC cars are doing, so I know it's legal, and now we're doing it to this car. So we're getting that much closer to being fully optimized for GLTC.
This car might look radically different than it did when I bought it, and that's because of these incremental changes that I've made to it over the years. In this video, we made a few more of those small changes. It might not seem like a lot, but it will make a massive difference in the car's safety and performance. These new mirrors really should help with my awareness on track, which will help give me confidence when I'm going wheel to wheel or side by side with cars into corners. The red valve cover is a really nice touch, and when I first had this car, it had a B series Type R engine in it with a red valve cover as well, so it's kinda nice to pay homage back to the original form. Having the battery cutoff and fire suppression switch within my reach is a nice step forward in safety as well. And lastly, this new intake setup should net me a lot more performance in this new class. Only time will tell. I can't wait to test the car out at the next race, but before we do that, I have some more upgrades to do in the next episode.